Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. Actually, this is Coffee and Conversation with my dear friend, the one and only Walt Key. Walter Key is with Epic Realty. That's QUE, Epic Realty. He is a Hawaiian vibin', Mr. Hawaiian vibin' guy. Great mentor and coach, and does a lot for our community. So this is our show to kind of talk about what's going on in the world, get Walt's perspective, and for us to kind of share. And I've got a question that I'll ask later on. So we want to encourage you all, as you watch this, if you have a question, reach out to me. There's always so much to talk about, and Walt's got a lot of wisdom. Welcome, Walt. How you doing today?
Thanks. What amazing introduction. I don't know that I have all the wisdom, but I've got some answers one way or the other. They might not be wise answers, but we'll throw something out there.
I think they're very wise, my friend, very intuitive and insightful. All right. So for those of you for those people who are tuning in now for the very first time, tell them a little bit about you.
Oh, goodness. What's the tell? Realtor, investor, coach, author, former marathon runner, most importantly, Hawaiian shirt aficionado. So if you need advice on real estate, I can help with that. But if you need advice on Hawaiian decor, I can definitely help with that. So I just do everything I can to help our industry by helping agents. So that's why I wrote our first book, is to give some guidance to agents. We're writing a second book right now. We started a coaching program. So we just have a lot of fun, and we try to help people along the way.
And you do. You absolutely help people. I've been on your sessions. I talk about this every time. Any chance that you can to, first, you want to follow Walt for sure on all platforms, definitely on Eventbrite as well, so that you can, and his link tree is scrolling across the bottom there. You can find him on Linktree, but you really want to check out what Walt's doing. He offers a lot of things for real estate people. In reality, it's for any business owner who might want to kind of know what's going on and maybe try to figure out a different path. So let's take a deep dive. You had some things that you wanted to talk about, and I love these topics. So I'll let you take it off.
Yeah. So where do we start? Let's start with, just since we're both in Florida, let's talk a little bit about the Florida market. So interesting article a couple of days ago talking about how Florida currently has they call it a new peak. It's not really a new peak, but it's a pretty recently new peak. 172,000 homes available right now, 172,000 homes on the market right now in the state of Florida. That's the highest number we've had on the market since 2012. Wow. So what was that, 13 years ago? It's been a long time. Now, nationally, we still have about a 4 million house shortage, but in Florida specifically, we are starting to see more listing inventory hit the market consistently. Now, funny, I thought, and maybe not because it's a big market, but 17,500 of that, so that's right around 10%, just a hair over 10%, is in Orlando. Yeah. So there's a lot of homes on the market in Orlando. So, the sellers are always not wanting other inventory because it makes their house more attractive. The buyers, of course, are wanting more inventory because now they have more options and they don't feel so pressed to find just the one house to settle with. So I think generally what we're starting to see is the market normalize a bit. And I know that's a weird way to say it, but the last 5 years have not been normal in any way, between interest rates going so low and then interest rates so quickly going high, and post-COVID inventory levels being so low. And now people get used to that. And now we're talking about it's the highest inventory it's been in 13 years. So there's all of these movements in the real estate market. And if you've been around long enough, you start to realize we're actually just kind of coming back to stasis, right? We're getting back to a normal market where buyers have some options. Sellers have to be smart about how they price and market their house. And it's not going to sell in 48 hours with 17 offers anymore. So those things were abnormal, right? It wasn't normal to have to compete against 16 other buyers and waive inspections and sacrifice your firstborn child to get a house. That was not normal. It wasn't normal to have 15 offers in 72 hours, right? As a seller, that's not normal. So we're just starting to get back to normal, which is a good thing.
I like it.
Yeah. Interest rates have come down once again. We're at about 3 months now, give or take a few weeks of consistent drops. If you were to go back and look at, say, January of 2025, we were just a hair over 7 is kind of the 30-year fixed national average. Now we're sitting at just a little over 6.5. So in those 3 months, we've come down about 0.5%. We're like 6.6, not quite 6.5. But we've talked about this before. I personally believe, and we're starting to see it, that mid-6 range is that psychological tipping point where all of the buyers feel like the interest rates are good again, because that short-term memory of the 2s and the 3s is gone now. Now we've fought 6s, 7s, 8s. Coming from the high of 8 back down into the mid-6s starts to psychologically feel good again. And so even just last week, we saw about a 9% nationally, about a 9% increase in mortgage applications.
Yes.
So as the rates continue to tick down into the 6.5 range, give or take a smidge, I think we're going to start to really see the market come back around where, yeah, there's a little bit more inventory than we might be used to now because a lot of buyers have been on the sidelines. Once those mortgage applications catch up, we're going to have a very nice equilibrium in the market where buyers are trying to buy, sellers are trying to sell. It's not a crazy frenzy. There's a fair bit of competition. Now, I will say that if you're a smart buyer, don't wait too much longer to get going if you need to buy, because the last thing you want to do is wait for every other buyer out there to decide it's the right time to buy. And now you're all trying to dive in together, right? Go ahead, and if you need to buy or sell, go ahead and do it now, especially if you need to buy. Don't wait for the interest rates to tick down just a little bit. The difference between the interest rates now and the interest rate where everyone starts piling in is not a drastic number. It's not a drastic change in your finances. So get ahead of that curve, because if the buyers all come back, things start selling again, prices continue to go up because supply and demand says if there's demand, prices go up. You're going to start building equity in the home you bought now, a month from now, before everyone else dives in and starts running the prices up. So you can take advantage of that price run up, or you can suffer from it as you're out there trying to buy a house and you're seeing the prices rise again. Just food for thought.
So that sort of segues. It's all accurate too. I get asked this all the time. I mean, all of it. I think people who watched last week, some of the comments I got was, what's the tipping point? That sort of goes to the question, because we talked about tipping point last week. But the specific question I got from last week is about buyers. And I have a lot of, on both sides, listings and buyer side. People are wondering, what is the tipping point for buyers? When do you think buyers will finally go, all right, aha, we're here? It has to be close. And what is that tipping point was the actual question.
Yeah. So obviously nobody has the perfect crystal ball. My crystal ball is pretty good. I've been able
Your crystal ball is great.
It's been pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Give or take a little bit of either side. Honestly, I think 6.5. That's the psychological tipping point for buyers. For most buyers, 6.5. Now, if you go look at Fed St. Louis right now, they update for those who don't know, Fed St. Louis tracks a 30-year fixed national average. It updates every Thursday. So as of right now, based on last Thursday, it's 6.63. The difference in your mortgage payment between a 6.63 interest rate and a 6.5% interest rate ain't much.
Nominal.
But if you're out there fighting all the other buyers that decided to jump in because we went to 6.49 and they all just got pre-approved, the price that you pay on the house might go up. So give or take a little bit, maybe a couple tenths of a percent, I kind of feel like 6.5 is the psychological point. And that's so the funny piece is too, right? We're talking about that. It's also important to know a great lender will get you well below 6.5 right now.
That's correct.
The national average for a 30-year fixed conventional is 6.63. That does not mean that you have to go get a 6.63% interest rate right now. You can go get an interest rate in the 5s if you've got a good lender and they're creative. Maybe there's some seller concessions. There's some interest rate buy downs. There's lots of options that lenders have in their disposal.
So true.
To drive that interest rate lower than the national average, obviously.
Correct. It's so true. I feel like, creative. There are so many ways. I think a lot of times I struggle on my end because the realtor is not familiar with the creative ways. And so if you try to share with them anything that's creative, it's because we're still in a little bit of a lack mindset in our industry instead of abundance. They're like, oh my God, but I don't want to present that. Is that going to disturb the peace of the traditional across the board? Here's your price. I don't want to throw any other variables in there because they might think. And I'm like, well, you want them to think. They're not leaving you. You're just giving them other options. And that's really what our job is to give them the options and give them our advice, or our input. But at the end of the day, if they have options, then they can make decisions that are educated.
Exactly right.
And I still have a lot of realtor friends who are afraid to ask for seller concessions because the sellers are pushing. In their minds, the sellers are pushing so hard back at even their pricing point, which they're still struggling with, that they're not going to want to give a seller concession. I'm like, I know, but your job is to be the advocate for your seller.
If you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Correct.
Ask the question. You'd be surprised. So I've got a contract that's set to close pretty soon. First time home buyer, FHA, $165,000 price point. Very, very low price point. But they're getting $7,500 in seller concessions. That's a 4% seller concession. Why? Because the seller wanted to sell the house.
Yep.
The buyer wanted to buy the house. That's when everybody got what they needed, right? Everybody's happy, right? The seller's not like, I can't believe we had to pay 75. The seller had a number. The offer met the number. The buyer needed the closing cost. Everybody wins. Everybody gets what they want in those scenarios. Don't be afraid to ask.
No, you shouldn't be afraid to ask. And I think that if you're questioning that, I feel like everybody's been in fear mode since the BBA got launched for whatever reason. And so this lack fear mindset, you're the professional. Just a reminder, you're the professional. You got your license. You're a licensed professional and an expert in your industry. And that's how you need to approach every single conversation you have with a buyer or a seller.
100%.
My opinion. All right. So what else is going on? Redfin.
Yeah. So that was an interesting one. I didn't dig super deep into that one because these big conglomerates buying stuff and selling stuff. I did think it was kind of interesting, just as a side note, that the entire thing was stock options. There's no cash involved in the purchase. That's a big number. Like, what was it? 1.75?
1.75 billion.
Yeah, 1.75 billion for all stock option.
And that's Rocket companies bought that. So Rocket
I thought that was interesting. Again, I'm a finance nerd. For those who don't understand the massive value of stock options in a company, you could hand me cash or you could hand me equity. I'll take equity all day. It's one of the things I love about Epic is like I constantly build equity. I'm an owner of the company, right? So I have thousands and thousands of shares of stock, and when we go public, we make a lot of money. That's how all of the greedy millionaire CEOs become millionaire CEOs, right? It's not on their $225,000 a year salary and benefits package. It's on the stock options that they get when they come over. So I did think that was interesting that they did an all stock deal and there's no cash involved in the transaction. That was pretty interesting. But those big companies are always moving and shaking like that. Like I remember when Zillow took over Showing Time, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, Zillow has access to all of our info because they took Showing Time." Guess what? Everybody still uses Showing Time because it's convenient and it's easy. And Zillow's not stealing your data; they already had it. Don't even sweat it.
Already had it.
Already had it. That didn't change. Similar with this situation, right? It'll be interesting to see as time goes on. Are there any internal policy changes with Redfin? Because one of the things that Redfin did differently is they paid real estate agents as employees. There was salaried agents. It wasn't full commission. And so it'll be interesting to see if they change anything like that. Do they go back to a full commission structure and agents have to go close deals regardless, or do they continue to pay that salary base? I think that was one of the draws for some agents to work with Redfin is, hey, at least it's not a ton, right? But at least I have some consistent base salary. And in a fluctuating market, that alleviates some of the fear and uncertainty for people. So that'll be interesting to watch.
The whole thing, and I don't know if we talked about it. There's all these announcements with the Keller. Did we talk about the Keller Williams influx?
No, I don't think we did.
Partnering with, because I've had a lot of people like bring that up in conversations over the past couple of weeks once it was announced. What are your thoughts on that?
So the head of realty.com, the CEO, Josh Amoa, the CEO of Epic Realty, because he's a tech developer. We really are a tech company at heart. They did a live call and they were talking about that transaction, KW, and just tech in general and how to leverage it. And what do you do with the extra funds and how do you apply those? So it was interesting to see I don't know why it stuck with me, but maybe it's just our culture. One of the things that really resonated with me was talking about when you have excess funds available to do something with, what are you doing with it? And so the conversation kind of turned to what are all of the things that they could do to really benefit their agents, right? To really turn the focus onto the individual agent. How do we help them grow their business? What might be out there where we can really dive deep into our agents? I don't know that they will or not, and that's not a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not picking on them, but it'll be interesting to see how that all folds out over the short term. But
correct. It was interesting, of course, all the, we're all in all those crazy mastermind groups that you pop the popcorn and you watch. And I think it's the uncertainty of it. It's the uncertainty. Same with Rocket and Redfin. It's like, all right, so what does this actually trickle down to the realtors or the people involved in this company?
That's a great point, though, right? Because there's always uncertainty as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
As an independent contractor, there's always uncertainty. Now, most people, if it's a big uncertain thing, they get nervous. If it's a little tiny over here uncertain thing, maybe they ignore it. But at the end of the day, what you can always be certain of, no matter what the market does, no matter what the interest rate does, no matter what some big company does or who they acquire, or what they buy, what the tech is, your ability to build relationships with people, your ability to serve people well, and then your ability to consistently follow up with those relationships will always be what makes you successful in this business. No matter what else is going on, no matter what uncertainty crops its head up next, that is the core of your business as a real estate professional, as a loan officer, as a title company. Is I want to build relationships, I want to add value to other people, and I want to follow up consistently. If you can do those three things, you will always be successful in real estate, no matter what twists and turns might come down the road.
Agreed. All right, so last little topic. I love what you put here. It was about daylight savings time.
Yeah, I think this is the most important conversation we're going to have today. Like, I got to imagine that every single person is having this conversation in their own house because we just dealt with it. Daylight savings time. Should we keep it or should we crush it? That's the question. So interesting. I was doing a little digging on this because obviously daylight savings times just happened again. I'm exhausted yesterday. I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm like, oh yeah, it's actually an hour later mentally than it should be, right? I'm too old for this stuff. It's interesting that 20 different states have actually passed state laws to make daylight savings time a permanent time frame. We're not going to shift it anymore. Not that they said, well, we would like to. 20 different states in the United States have passed their own state laws to just baseline this. No more back and forth, no more forward, no more backwards. But it's interesting. Without federal law changes, those states cannot adopt a permanent daylight savings time. It's required to pass on the federal level in order to happen, with the exception of, and this is just because it happened so far ago. So everyone knows Arizona is on a permanent standard time, right?
Yep.
They opted out of daylight savings time all the way back in 1968, right? So that's the reason that Arizona has a permanent standard time. They did it way before they had to do what they, and then Hawaii actually, right? When the original Uniform Time Act was passed, Hawaii immediately opted out. So now in the current geopolitical environment we have, states can't just say, you know what, we're opting out too. It's too late. That's done. So even if states pass their own law saying we're no longer going to do daylight savings time, it has to get passed in the Congress in order to be enacted. Now it's funny too, since 2018. So we're going on 7 years of this, almost every year. I think actually every single year since 2018, a law has been introduced to Congress, but it's never passed. It's never.
Why is that? Like,
I don't know, right? Of all the things we could solve, like, I feel like we should just.
It's such an easy thing. How could this? I was even trying to wrap my head around it. Is there some lobbying group that is pro keeping
Dairy Farmers of America need the extra daylight? I don't know. So it's interesting. Right? The idea, if you go way, way back, the idea behind daylight savings time was, at the time, early America, we were more of an agrarian society. The extra hour of daylight helped farmers, et cetera, et cetera. But we've got so much technology now. Our tractors have headlights now. Literally, truly, like, the agrarian society has evolved so well in the past decades that all of those arguments for why we should have had it really are mute. So this is the question for the audience today. Obviously, we can't solve this problem, just the two of us, but here's the question for the audience. We're going to do an informal survey. Everybody drop this in the comments. No matter what state you're in, no matter where you are, we want your opinion. Do daylight savings time. Okay. Do we keep it? You know what? Hey, we'll fall back. We'll spring forward. We'll do the thing. Or do we do away with it? Whether it's, hey, let's do it with, whether it's an hour earlier or an hour later, doesn't matter. But if we crush it, we don't change the freaking clocks anymore. No more getting up in the morning and your phone updated, but now I got to go through the house and change the cuckoo clock. Yes, I have an actual cuckoo clock. I got to go reset the microwave. If you're like me, it has to, the mmicrowave and the Alexa and the stove all have to be synced within at least 1 millisecond, or I lose my mind, right?
Sure.
I'm tired of doing this. We literally have a wind-up cuckoo clock. Ridiculous. So what's your opinion, audience? Do we keep it and we keep going back and forth? Do we crush it and we just baseline our time and we never have to reset a clock again? I want to know what your thoughts are.
We want you to comment. And with that,
let us know.
Walt, share with them the best way they can reach you or ask questions or whatever it is.
So if you just Google Walter Key, I'm the only Walt Key in a Hawaiian shirt on Facebook. You'll find me. There's like 8,000 followers, so you'll know it's me and not some spammer with 1 follower. The link tree that's scrolling across the bottom is all of my info's there. My socials, my email, my phone number, my websites, everything is there. That's the easiest way to grab me, either one of those.
Awesome. Always a joy to spend time with you, my friend. You all ask us anything, but definitely drop your comments below as far as daylight savings time is. Thanks so much, Walt. Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all you do for our industry, Walt. We'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.